It's Tuesday, July 21st, 2020, and welcome to the reading of the Record Courier. My name is Pam, and we begin today's reading with the area deaths. Kenneth T. Kozlowski Sr., 86, of Shalersville, passed away Friday, July 17th. There will be no calling hours or services, and cremation has taken place. Suzanne Ayers Hooverman, 85, of Aurora, formerly of Garrettsville, passed away on Saturday, June 6th. Please join the family for a memorial visitation honoring both Sue and Art on Saturday, August 1st, 2020, from 1 to 2:30 p.m. at Mallory DeHaven Carlson Funeral Home and Cremation Services in Garrettsville. The family and funeral home will follow current CDC and Ohio guidelines for COVID-19. Should there be any changes in being able to hold the service, please check the status with the funeral home. As an advocate of public health, Suzanne would not want to jeopardize the health of others. Well, that concludes the Tuesday area death notices. Now for our first article. Homelessness Becoming More Visible in Ravenna by Diane Smith. It's not clear if there are more homeless people in Ravenna or if those people are just more visible because they have no place to go. But the COVID-19 pandemic means that more apparently homeless people are being seen in downtown Ravenna. Ravenna Councilwoman Amy Michael said she has gotten complaints from downtown business owners who say homeless people are loitering and bothering customers who are dining outside. The merchants told her that they charged their phones from a plug outside of a lawyer's office. Others, she said, slept outside of the Ravenna 7 movie theater, which is closed because of the virus. Then she said she saw a woman who had 2 dogs. She talked to that woman and she said she couldn't find housing because of her dogs. She's really a kind soul, Michael said, adding that as a dog owner, she understands why she won't give up her dogs, saying that the animals are like her kids. Michael said she reached out to the community on social media and found donations to pay the woman's vet bills and put her into a hotel until she could find an apartment. That woman, she said, found an apartment that will accept her dogs. I went to visit her, and she was a different person, she said. She said the hotel is hiring people to clean rooms, and she said she will apply. She said, it will give me something to do. She said many of these places that homeless people go to in Ravenna are closed. That includes the Caritas Cafe, which is operated by Catholic Charities. Water on the Rock, a public shower and laundry facility at the Resources on Oakwood campus, had been closed because of the virus. However, Michael said, the facility is now open by appointment by calling Family and Community Services. She said she was recently able to help the woman who owned the dogs get a shower and also helped a man to get a shower. The man, she said, told her that the shower was worth $1 million, she said. In Ravenna, when we see people in need, we don't hesitate to help them, she said. Coleman Professional Services has a downtown outreach coordinator, Erin Lemon, the case manager at that program, told city council members to give her card to homeless residents so she can help them find resources. Bill Russell, chief officer at Portage Behavioral Health at Coleman, said many places that homeless went to are not open because of the pandemic. There are a lot less places to go into. Some homelessness is just a lot more visible, he said. There are less people willing to share a space with people in response to COVID-19. There are fewer couches to surf on. People who are in need of mental health services, including those who are homeless, can call Coleman at 330-296-3555 or 800-673-1347, he said. Anne Marie Noble, director of The Haven, a homeless shelter that is in the works on Route 59 near Walmart, said she has received many calls from people who need shelter. She refers them to Family and Community Services, which operates Miller Community House as well as housing for the veterans. However, she said, they told her that their facilities are full. Mark Frasone, executive director of Family and Community Services, confirmed that the shelters are at capacity, but said the agency has received extra funding to house people temporarily at hotels. Not all people are willing to stay at shelters, including those with pets. There are volunteers willing to temporarily foster animals while they stay in shelters. Nobody is moving through the system the way they normally would, he said. There are more people sitting outside in downtown Ravenna, but Noble noted that not all of them are homeless. She said some of them live in apartments downtown. She said more rent assistance needs to be available to people. She said there is a trickle-down effect because when people can't pay their rent, property owners can't pay their mortgages. We haven't seen the fallout from COVID, but it's coming, she said. This next article, Kent Police Lieutenant Dispatcher Saves Baby's Life by Eileen McClory. Two terrified parents of a month-old baby boy called 911 early Friday morning because their baby was not breathing. At about 1 a.m., Kent Police Dispatcher Lindsay Schmalex first began walking the parents through CPR, asking them to check the baby's mouth for any obstruction, according to a 911 recording released by the Kent Police Department. The parents didn't find anything, so Schmalex gave them instructions for CPR until Lieutenant Ryan Gaydosh, the responding officer, got to the scene on Stein Court. Gaydosh said Friday afternoon that when he got to the home, he saw the parents standing near a car, headed over and began to administer CPR and pat the baby, Donovan Reynolds, on the back. Gaydosh can be heard on a 911 recording patting the baby until the baby started to cry, at which point Gaydosh said he knew the baby was going to be okay. Being a parent myself, that's probably one of the worst feelings you have as a parent, is to be there knowing that your child is in trouble and you can't do anything, Gaydosh said. I just tried to stay as calm as possible. Gaydosh said he is the father of 3 children, the youngest of whom is 3 years old. It's not clear what caused the baby to stop breathing. One of the baby's parents, Devin Reynolds, 25, said doctors told the parents it may have been acid reflux. There was nothing obstructing the baby's throat. Once the baby began to breathe again and started to cry, Gaydosh said he talked to the parents and tried to calm them down as well. I looked at the parents and I was like, listen, you didn't do anything wrong, Gaydosh said. The Kent Fire Department also responded, along with a second Kent police officer, and the baby was taken to Akron Children's Hospital. Devin Reynolds declined to be interviewed further in a text message, but has said his family and his baby are doing well, and he wanted to thank the officer who came to help. I was a little confused why a doctor was in a police uniform that day, but I'm very grateful, Reynolds said. Gaydosh said the reason he got into police work was to help people, and this was one of the times he felt he was helping. I came back and told my wife, something cool happened today, Gaydosh said. Moving on. Haymaker Farmers Market will require customers to wear masks by Caitlin McGarvey. In Kent, masks will be mandated for customers of the Haymaker Farmers Market starting Saturday. According to market manager Andrew Rome, the new requirements come after the mask mandate approved by Kent City Council on Wednesday. Masks will now be required for all vendors, employees, volunteers, and customers at the market. However, Rome noted, individuals with documented medical excuses will be exempt. Rome said masks weren't previously mandated because the focus of the market is providing direct consumer access to local agricultural producers. Staff decided that welcoming all customers regardless of masks was part of its mission to include everyone into the market's community. Being part of a community, however, means accepting responsibility. Rome said that the market accepts its responsibility to comply with the city's mask mandate. We're grateful to all our vendors and customers for the steps they are taking to make the market as safe as possible for our community, Rome wrote in an email. The Haymaker Farmers Market is a walk-up market that is open each Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It is located on Franklin Avenue under the Haymaker Overpass. Please note that 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. is reserved for self-identified vulnerable populations. Up next, traffic delays possible due to the road construction in Brimfield, Suffield Townships. The Portage County Engineer's Office announced that there will be some roads under construction starting Wednesday. Motorists should expect periodic delays in traffic. The roads that will be impacted are Ranfield Road from Talmadge to Old Forge in Brimfield Township, Congress Lake from Waterloo to Swartz in Suffield Township. This next article is titled, Waterloo Suspends Sports Students' Activities Until August 1st by Jonah Rosenblum. The Vikings will flip the page on July before their next practice. With a couple of student athletes exposed to COVID-19, though no student athlete has shown symptoms or tested positive to this point, Waterloo is taking a preemptive strike, shutting down until August 1st. What we had is one parent of one of our athletes tested positive, and then we had another athlete who came in contact with somebody who had tested positive. So it's just to be safe. Viking Athletic Director Mike Davies said, "We're trying to be preemptive to keep our coaches and athletes safe and ensure that we can have a fall season." With multiple student athletes exposed to COVID-19 and the possibility that they might have the virus and spread it to their teammates, Davies said that he and Superintendent Sean Bremen decided to use the time before practices officially to start to get healthy. If there was somebody that was positive, that 2 weeks seems to be the magic number, Davies said. That would get us to August 1st. The shutdown affects both Viking soccer teams, boys and girls, as well as football and volleyball, all of which were practicing several times a week. Cross country was also slated to begin running together as opposed to individually this week prior to the shutdown. Beyond sports, band and other student activities are shut down until August 1st. To be on the safe side, we shut everything down, all student activities, Bremen said. We still have adults working in the buildings, but with having student activities, there was a risk there. And all the sports and activities were open gyms, open fields, drills, that kind of thing. We felt to err on the side of caution was best. We're going to keep working on the process of how we handle sports correctly and the protocols we'll have when there's a suspicion of COVID-19. Sunday's announcement brought a sudden stop to sports at Waterloo following a gradual ramp-up activities. On June 15th, the Vikings entered the National Federation of State High School Associations Phase 1 with the strictest rules enforcing social distancing and avoiding shared equipment. On June 22nd, the Vikings joined high schools across the state in entering Phase 2, which allowed players to touch the same ball, critical to a wide number of sports. By Sunday, Waterloo had entered Phase 3, which allowed some contact, including 7-on-7 work and intra-squad scrimmages. Davies learned Sunday that 2 student athletes were exposed to the coronavirus. That same day, Davies spoke with Brahman, and the two decided the safest option was to shut down until August 1st. For sports like football, soccer, and volleyball, the Vikings might lose a total of 6 to 8 practices apiece. Davies said his head coaches took the news surprisingly well. In the case of Waterloo girls basketball team, the program was largely operating online regardless. Davies also, the head coach of the Waterloo football team, said his team will take to Zoom and make sure that we're reviewing what we already covered in camp so that we don't lose much ground. One of my highlights of my day is spending time with my kids, and I've got to go another 2 weeks before I'll get to see them again, Davies said. It hurts, but in their best interest and in my coach's best interest, it was the right thing to do. Brahman said he did not believe that the full shutdown of activities was indicative of how the district would respond to a potential COVID-19 case in the classroom. I think the two are somewhat unrelated. Yes, they both involve kids, but I think the classroom is easier to control, Brahman said. The classroom setting is far different than kids running around playing a sport and sweating and being on top of each other and knocking each other down. I don't want to dissuade from the fact that if we have the opportunity to start school with kids in the building, we'll do it. That's the number one priority, and we're still aiming for that. As for the course, court, gridiron, and pitch, will the Vikings sacrifice pay off with a fall season? I'm a professional optimist, Davies said. I'm always a glass half full guy. I'm holding out hope. I think the best interest for everybody would be to flip the fall and spring sports, but the OHSAA doesn't seem to want to do that. I could see a delayed season, possibly, and just playing maybe conference games. I don't know. Well, this next article is titled Kent State Navigates Changing Policies for International Students by Kristen Cano. Lorenzo Toscano has built a life at Kent State. The senior computer science major is the vice president of the Cybersecurity Club, treasurer of the Computer Engineering Technology Club, and is active in Greek life and does IT work for the university. He's taking 19 credit hours, well above the required 12, and is on track to graduate next summer. And all that could have been derailed by recently reversed guidance regarding student visa requirements that could have forced Toscano to return home to Italy or delay his graduation date. On Tuesday, the Trump administration announced the reversal of an immigration policy that would have required international students to take some in-person courses in order to maintain their visa status, despite the fact that many colleges are operating partially or entirely remotely next semester due to the coronavirus pandemic. The reality is that the student doesn't control how their school offers classes, especially in the middle of the pandemic. Some schools are not willing to let students back at all. Let's say you've enrolled in a school like that. The government is basically saying you can't stay. This isn't a choice for students because they don't have a choice on how schools offer classes. That's what makes it so capricious and discriminatory, said Emmanuel Olawale, a Columbus attorney who specializes in immigration law. International students like Toscano are relieved by the announced reversal, but until it becomes official, students and university officials are continuing to change schedules and reissue immigration documents. For years, immigration regulations have limited the number of online or remote courses that international students could take while in the U.S. on certain types of visas. Those regulations were relaxed when schools began closing down and moving to online platforms in the spring due to COVID-19, allowing international students to stay in the U.S. while studying remotely. Many hoped they would continue that relaxation into the fall, but on July 6th, for the coming semester, while there's still considerable relief, there is no longer the ability for F1 students to remain in status while taking all courses remotely or online. Jeff Davis, Associate Director of International Student and Scholar Services in the Office of Global Education, said last week in a town hall meeting that was viewed by over 9,000 people. That Monday, Kent State and other universities scrambled to interpret vague guidelines and find qualifying in-person courses, while its 1,409 international students attempted to quickly reassess their options. This coming semester, less than 40% of Kent State courses are offered face-to-face due to safety precautions, and many students have entirely remote schedules. Hundreds of emails were exchanged that day between the Kent State Office of Global Education, students, academic advisors, and professors as they tried to find legal options for an estimated 800 students who are currently in the U.S., said Marcello Fantoni, Associate Provost for Global Education. Kent State was attempting to ensure that every international student had at least courses that met in person at least 51% of the time. If we don't help them, they have to leave, and that's for students that come from 99 different countries. Some of the states have closed their borders, so some students can't stay in Kent and they can't go home. This will be a dramatic situation. If we can't find a way to help them, there will be major problems across the nation, because what happens if they're no longer eligible for a visa, but there are no flights to go home, Fantoni said on Monday. We have to do the best for our students at Kent State, but if this thing doesn't change, it will impact around 1 million international students in this country. This is enormous. On July 9th, Harvard and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology sued the Trump administration in federal court to block the policy. Kent State President Todd Diacon sent a letter urging a return to the pandemic policy to representatives in D.C., and within 3 days, a Kent State petition in support of international students garnered 1,000 signatures. By July 13th, 17 states and the District of Columbia filed lawsuits as well. Then, on July 14th, The Trump administration announced it would go back to the pandemic policy of allowing international students to take all online and/or remote classes while staying in the U.S. According to Fantoni, it is too early to express relief because as of July 15th, the actual reversal of the policy has not yet been confirmed. We need to know exactly when the official announcement will be made, what the contents and rules will be, he said. Kent State had set a July 15 deadline for international students to rearrange their schedules and an August 4th deadline to reissue I-20s, an immigration form required for visa interviews that certifies a student's in-person enrollment in the college. In the uncertainty of not knowing or being able to predict what will be in the official policy, we're still going ahead with our plan. We don't undo the work that we've already done, and that's in the content of the communication we're sending to students. If, in fact, this restriction is lifted, students are free to do what they want. Otherwise, we at least have a plan in place. Fantoni said his office is continuing to work through students' schedules and reissue I-20s by August 1st because it would be irresponsible not to do that. If the good news is confirmed, well, we do lots of work for nothing many times, and at least we have a plan. But if for some reason something goes wrong, we can't throw away the work that we've done. Student experience. Soon after the announced reversal, Kent's undergraduate student government issued a statement noting, "We expect the university to continue advocating for our international students to ensure they are able to safely pursue an education in the United States." For international students, a lot of them, even though they're activists within their home country, wouldn't be one here because they're considered minorities and have limited rights within the U.S. government. University officials and student leaders were emailing them 3 times a week for suggestions and ways to help. Not just at Kent State, but all over the country, universities have stood up for them. "I hope that continues," said Sura Alapoli Suresh, undergraduate student government senator at large for international students who helped draft the letter. Suresh said that while he's happy to hear the news, there is still a great deal of uncertainty. Nobody knows if there's going to be additional changes or if it just goes back to the way it was. "I've been monitoring the ICE website and they haven't updated it yet," said Suresh, who is also president of Global Ambassadors and has been helping international students navigate the changing guidelines. Suresh said he did not believe the changing policies would be a deciding factor for international students attempting to come to the United States because many have already paid thousands of dollars. However, he said, there may be decreased international students because of limited traveling capabilities and the fact that embassies are still closed, thereby preventing students currently in their home countries from completing the required paperwork and interviews to enter the U.S. That's been the case for Marjorie Larea, a transfer nutrition major currently living in Ghana, who has been considered deferring to spring because embassies are closed. She has not yet made travel or living arrangements due to the pandemic and is still considering if she should wait for embassies to reopen. Jamie Jitapiram, an international PhD student in her 3rd year at Kent State, said that a friend in Thailand had a visa interview after the reversal announcement was made, but that the friend, who was admitted to the University of Pittsburgh, and other applicants were turned down. The interviewer told them to get the university to indicate in their CVIS whether they will be taking classes online or in person. The students' I-20s from before the ruling were accepted, even though the new ruling said the I-20s must be updated, Jitaparam said. International students who are already in the country are feeling mixed emotions. Jitaparam, for one, is feeling relieved but also still alert and vigilant. "I've been an international student in the U.S. for about 4 or 5 years now. I've seen immigration issues change back and forth overnight. So I'm relieved, but I'm keeping my eye on it," she said. "I want to be mentally prepared." Prior to the announced reversal, Chidambaram was worried about her schedule because it was entirely online, but was able to make arrangements with a professor to ensure that some portions of her schedule were face-to-face and would meet minimum requirements. Hypothetically, she said she could have kept her original schedule and worked from home in Thailand, but because of the 13-hour time difference, it would be impractical. Also, if you go back to your country right now, many countries, including Thailand, are unwelcoming to anyone coming from the States because of the numbers being so high. Furthermore, if I go back to my country, it would be really, really hard to come back again because of the Trump administration's regulations, Chidambaram said. Toscano feels a sense of relief combined with anger and frustration. For the past week, he has been weighing two poor options. Either he could drop a course in his overly loaded and entirely remote schedule in order to make room for a one-credit in-person course, likely causing him to graduate late, or he could return to Italy in order to keep his schedule and graduate on time, but would be unable to participate in his various clubs, lose his on-campus job that is basically work training for him, and have to leave his friends and girlfriend. I don't need to worry myself with all that, so it's a lot better. But also, I've been in this country for 6 years, and in all of those 6 years, I didn't have anything like this happen. I felt respected for what I was, a student who came here and paid for what I got. And then this happened, Toscano said. This policy that needed to be followed, it was really made in order to use us as a political weapon to defund universities. It doesn't make sense because we're paying to be here, and the U.S. would be missing a lot if we weren't here. It felt as if in this moment, no one is really safe from being used in politics. As someone who can't vote, I'm getting used in politics for which I take no part of. I just hope this is all over. Well, friends, that concludes the Record Courier for Tuesday, July the 21st. My name is Pam, and I'm asking you to please stay safe until we are back with you again.